This is one of my favorite to lists. It happens all the time in every office, every day. There's many different ways to do this in Excel. The way I'm going to demonstrate now is probably not the most advanced. For those users who are accustomed or comfortable using pivot tables, you can do all kinds of nifty things. But for a client who comes to us because their expertise is something else and they just don't want to be bothered doing Excel, there are simple ways that we can do things very quickly. Here's a product list with some 11,700 items, and this company had sales this month and there were 3,900 items on the list. So the question they were asking was, which of the items in our inventory sold this month or didn't sell this month? In a similar circumstance, I saw a manager request this list be completed in a week's time. It was assigned on a Monday, and the deadline was get it back to me next week, Monday. That time was given because that was the typical amount of time that the person would take to do it. They would literally print out the 2 pages, however many it was, and go through each sold item and find it on the product list, scratch it off in pen and paper, and then create a new list summarizing all those that did not get scratched off and say, here's your list of not sells. This list is 11,700 items long. It could be 100,000 items long. Today's Excel sheets have 1 million rows, over 1 million rows. So, but the beauty of this method is once you do it once, it doesn't matter if it's 10,000 rows or 100,000 rows or 1 million rows. The time it takes to do is the same, and it definitely doesn't take a week. We're going to do it right now in under a minute. So go. First thing I want to do is ask the question, what items from the product list are on the sales list? And the simple way to do that, or a simple way to do that, is with COUNTIF. It tells you what range do you want to look in. So we select that range. And what are you looking for? And we select that item. We hit enter and it says 0. 0 means this item is not found on its list. So this item didn't sell. Well, we also want to be able to find out or say it in more of a plain English way, because once we run this down, it's going to say 0 or 1. If I double click on this little fill handle here, and let's make sure we can see this clearly. If I double click on this fill handle down, and okay, so this is on it, this isn't, this is, isn't, is, etc. Computers speak in zeros, but real people don't. So all the way down to the bottom of the list, these items are demonstrated as having sold or not. And if we filter this list and show the ones, the rows filtered should match the sales on the right. 39 to 50. Right. So that's the first step. That's terrific. But it's not very human language, ones and zeros. So let's try and get it to say what we want it to say. So we're going to ask the question, if the COUNTIF returns a 0, means it didn't sell. So we'll just say didn't sell. If, and because it's an if statement, we just now say, well, what if that's not true? What if it did sell? Then we can say sold. And the reason we do it that way is the if formula is the number of instances. So if this item sold 38 times, this would be number 38. And we're not concerned with how many did sell. The question was, which items did not sell that month? So now that we've got that formula set up, we can do our fill handle, double click again, down and say didn't. We can do to make it easier. The last thing, we can do to make it easier for someone is we can say sold, didn't sell, and we can do a summary that way. And we can say equals COUNTIF. The range is this entire list, and the criteria is this guy, and the didn't sell is the same thing. Actually, let's just be a little bit more intelligent about it. Let's just make sure that this range doesn't move when we copy down. One day we'll talk about absolute, relative, and mixed references. And when I pull this down, you see this is pointing at the range in blue and pointing at the criteria in green. And when I look at this, It's pointing at the same range, but it's looking at a different criteria in green. So there's those that did sell, there's those that didn't sell, and now we can quickly look at that list of didn't sells and talk about what we want to do with that. And that is comparing two lists in Excel. Again, if this list was 100,000 items, or items by product, by region, by whatever, we can do that. And let us suppose we spend an hour on it. You just watched it took about a minute. It certainly isn't a week. We're not going to wait a week to find out what we can find out in just a few minutes. We can do that in Excel. That happens every day in every office all over the world. And there's a lot of companies not being very productive. I've been in the largest companies on earth, the Canadian office and Canadian head offices of those representative companies, and this type of thing goes on where things take days or weeks, plural. I've seen month projects that really shouldn't have taken more than an hour or two or three or a half a morning. Even if it took a day, it's far better than 3 weeks. These are the types of things we can do in Excel. Thanks.